Good morning, Alan. Hello, everyone else, and welcome to TARDIS Spider. Today, Time Lords gone mad. Not only the Master has gone mad, but other Time Lords as well. So let's look at these Time Lords who went mad and what might be the most common reason for madness in a Time Lord. The madness of the Master. That his mind had been damaged while looking into the tempered schism has been told many times. Yet the Master is not the only Time Lord whose mind has been shaped by a madness. Greed. Not wealth, something that would drive humans mad. Greed for power, greed for knowledge. So let us look at the other Time Lords who one could say went mad. The ones that went mad. Barusa, formerly a tutor at the Prydon Academy. His erstwhile pupils included the Doctor, the Master, the Ronnie, and Drax. He specialized in mathematics, reason, and mental powers. Elevated to the High Council as a Cardinal shortly before the assassination of the 406th President, Barusa oversaw the repairs and renovations to the Capitol after the Master's attempt to open the Eye of Harmony. The council subsequently ratified Barusa's appointment as chancellor, and he thus became acting president. Acting president until the Doctor returned to Gallifrey. Now, he played a vital role in the defeat of the Vardens and Sontarans. Following the Doctor's resignation, Barusa legitimately became the president, a capacity in which he later sanctioned the Doctor's execution in an effort to prevent the return of Omega to this universe, possibly caused by his involvement in several major crises in quick succession. Barusa underwent 3 regenerations in a very short space of time. This culminated in an incarnation that believed he had earned the right to rule Gallifrey in perpetuity, having governed the Time Lords openly and behind the scenes for such a long, long time. Barusa had located the Black Scrolls of Rassilon and followed the clues that would lead him to immortality. Rassilon duly rewarded him with the living death in the Dark Tower. The legends say that Barusa was later resurrected to help the Time Lords through dark periods of rebellion and war, even sometimes serving Rassilon during this time. Goth. Goth is a Praetorian chancellor at the time of the assassination of the 406th president, whom he had generally expected to succeed, and was eventually revealed as the assassin of. He encountered the dying master on Tercerus and agreed to transport him to Gallifrey. There he claimed he found himself unable to resist the master's mental power and colluded in the scheme to kill the president and blame the doctor. The master used him to enter and manipulate the Matrix and to ensure that the doctor would be promptly executed for the assassination. Goth ultimately perished when the master left him trapped in the Matrix and was killed by a psychosomatic feedback. The monk. The monk was a time meddler. He had stolen a Mark IV Type 40 time capsule and left Gallifrey some 50 Earth years after the Doctor. Like the Doctor, he was attracted to this planet Earth, but his primary motivations were fun and profit. He introduced Leonardo da Vinci to the idea of powered flight, and he decided to change a key point in Earth history. He was going to destroy an 11th century Viking fleet so that the Saxon King Harold could defeat the Norman William the Conqueror at the Battle of Hastings. Anticipating that this change would avert a series of war in the continent of Europe, he claimed he wanted to bring peace and allow Earth's humans to better themselves. And with a few hints and tips from him, he thought humanity might develop jet airliners by 1320. Shakespeare could see his plays performed on television. Outwitted by the doctor, the monk was stranded in an 11th century Northumbria, but eventually escaped to the planet Tygus and then to Earth's ancient Egypt. There he encountered a succession of uneasy alliances with the Doctor and with the Daleks, eventually being left stranded again on an unidentified ice planet. Morbius. Morbius was a war criminal who once led the High Council of Time Lords, a ruthless dictator with millions of fanatical followers and admirers. He took a mercenary army to the planet Karn, promising them immortality. When Morbius and his rebels overran the planet, the Time Lords saved the Sisterhood. Morbius was executed on Karn, but his body was placed in a dispersal chamber, and he was atomized. But his brain was secretly prepared by one of his human followers. Dr. Solon was one of the foremost neurosurgeons of his time, an expert in microsurgical tissue transplant techniques. Solon spent several years constructing a new physical form for Morbius by scavenging body parts from crashed spaceships. When Solon activated the monstrosity he had created, the Doctor challenged Morbius to a mind bending contest. It nearly killed the Doctor, but was enough to overheat Morbius's brain. The Sisterhood then forced him off a mountainside, and he fell, presumably to his final death. The Ronnie. Please note I am not including the Ronnie's most recent adventure in Doctor Who. The Ronnie, a contemporary of the Doctor's and a fellow student at the Prydon Academy. The Ronnie was a scientific genius, but obsessive to the point of madness. She was expelled from Gallifrey after her experiments on mice created monsters that ate the president's cat and took a chunk out of the president, too. She enslaved a world, Missamia Goria, whose inhabitants she relieved of the chemicals in the brain that they needed to sleep. This drove her subjects to violently be mad. She continued her experiments on 19th century Earth until stopped by the Doctor. Taking control of the planet Lucretia, she began stealing geniuses from the time streams in order to build a time manipulator. The final mind she needed was the Doctor's, and she caused his sixth regeneration when she trapped his TARDIS. He returned in their favor, trapping her in her own TARDIS with a bunch of tetraps. Sally Avon. Sally Avon, a great criminal with a unique talent, the capacity to project his mind into other minds. He was imprisoned on the time prison of Shada, but escaped using his mental abilities to force the Time Lords to forget not only him, but also Shadow itself. Stealing the ancient and worshipful law of Gallifrey from the Panopticon archives to ensure that his escape remained undetected, he assumed a new identity and went into hiding. Now calling himself Chronotus, he became a professor at the University of Cambridge on 17th century Earth, staying there for 300 years until he was located by the dronoid criminal Skagra. There is a theory that temporal instabilities caused this chain of events to unfold on at least four occasions, involving at least two different incarnations of the Doctor. The Visionary. The Visionary is a tattooed affiliate of Rassilon's final High Council in the last days of the Time War. Her ceaseless predictions suggested that only two Time Lords, the Doctor and the Master, would survive the war. She also gave Rassilon the idea of implanting a link with Gallifrey in the Master's mind in order to restore the planet. The War Chief. The War Chief is a near contemporary of the Doctor's at the Academy. He is another who has stolen the TARDIS and left Gallifrey. He gave time travel technology to an alien species from Galactic Sector 973, helping them mastermind the war games, intending to breed an ultimate fighting force with the aim of bringing about a united galactic empire, preferably with himself as the supreme galactic ruler. The Doctor's intervention halted the games, and the war chief was executed by his alien collaborators. There is a record of the alien's warlord being put on trial by the Time Lords. The sentence was that this warlord, his entire species, and his home world would all be dematerialized so that they would never have existed. No trace of them remains, not even their names. These are the other Time Lords who have gone mad. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Enjoy your journey through time and space, and good night.